Welcome back. We are going to go over our hind leg stretches. If you watched the other video, we already did the front leg. So now we're going to move over to the back leg. So Journey has decided to be our model again. So what you want, the easiest way is to have your dog on its side. That's what's in the camera. And you are behind the dog. So that way you have their back against your legs and they can't scoot away from you while you're trying to do the stretches. You can do it standing. Hard to do the back leg sitting. So that's the only position that you really can't get to the hind leg to do. So we're going to go over our joints and then we're going to go into the stretching. So we have our hock or tarsus. So that's that first joint. And then our stifle or knee. So that is the second joint right here. And then our hip. So your hip is way up here. And if your dog is at ideal body condition, you can actually feel the femoral head. And that's sitting right here. So that's the one that extends your leg, brings it forward. So those are the three major joints in the back leg. I do want to point out dogs do have joints in their toes. So if the dog is not using the leg properly or whatnot, I would suggest stretching out the toes also. So that can be as easy as just placing the paw in your hand and stretching up. So most dogs that aren't using their leg have it like this. So imagine having it like that all the time. That gets really stiff and you want to stretch those out. And remember, this is all done after a warm-up. You never want to stretch out your joints and muscles without being warmed up. So that's with the massage before. You can do a light jog for about 5 minutes just to warm everything up before you stretch. So those are the toes. If you do them individually, you can actually grab, if the dog isn't toe ticklish, you can actually grab each toe and just give it a little tug. And that will help open up those little toe joints. She's being toe ticklish today. And help with getting that paw really flexed out on the floor. All right, so we're going to move to our major joints. So to our tarsus. So what you want to do, you can either grab up here over the knee, the flexion, or you can grab right above, which I find sometimes is hard if the dog has really good flexion. See how your thumb gets in the way? So I like to come under here and flex here. An extension is basically you're taking this hand above the hock or the tarsus, pushing that way, and then grabbing the toes and opening that way. See how well that is extended? So your extension should be in about a 180. So you're measuring that with a goniometer. Full extension is 180. And then flexion, you can get up to, 25, 30, but 35 is good on a flexion. So you want to repeat that several times. And then to stretch, you just continue to push here, open up there, open up that little fulcrum area, and hold. So you can hold for 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 10 seconds is perfect, but whatever your dog will allow. She'll allow, an hour. So demonstration purposes, we're going to move on. So for our knee, I'm going to shift a little bit and get behind her a little bit. So I have my knee around her base of her tail, basically, and my other knee kind of at the back of her. So flexion, extension. So that is stifle flexion, and that's a really good flexion. And extension, again, about 180 degrees in that joint you're looking for. If you don't have that and the dog has a problem, don't make them go to 180, but that is a place that you can shoot for. You may never get there, and don't worry about it. If a dog has arthritis or whatnot, they are not physically capable of doing that. So again, just go through range of motion, flexion, extension. I have my hand on the joint above, and I have my other hand above the joint. You never want to push actually on the joint. You want to stay off the joint while you're working on that particular joint. So flexion, extension, and again to stretch. So this is called range of motion. When I'm just putting the joint through its normal range of motion. And then stretching means you're actually going to go a little beyond where the dog has its normal range of motion stop and stretch it a little more. So if you get a reaction, I don't think that was a reaction to me stretching. I think it's a reaction to her daughter and uncle playing on the bed. Stop and back up a little bit. Don't go so far. They'll let you know if you've gone too far with your stretching. So what this does, this is an important one, especially with a dog, if it has a stifle injury, because they hold their leg like this. So what happens is our quadriceps, which are up here, shrink because they're not using them. So we need to stretch those out, because if we don't, they can get contracture, and then it's really, really hard to get that muscle elongated again. And then on this extension, we're actually doing our hamstrings too, which is this muscle group behind the leg. All right, on to hip. So hips are, I'm gonna lay her down. There we go, good girl. So again, I'm just gonna have my hand here. You can have the other hand up here. You don't need to though. Basically, you're just gonna work with your knees. And this hand can come above the knee to push out. So hip is flexion, extension. And again, this one is also working the quadriceps, the hamstrings, and the range of motion of the hip. So you're hitting a lot of target areas for that range of motion of that hind leg. So this one, you're not going to get 180 because it's that the hip joint just doesn't work that way. So what you want to shoot for this is about 150, 160, and flexion is about 50. And numbers mean nothing to you, don't even worry about them. What you want to make sure is that you're just going through range of motion, what your dog is comfortable with. And again, for stretching, so we want to elongate, we're going to push on this hand. This is just a steadying hand. This is not pulling. This is just steadying so it stays lateral. You don't want to torque up. You don't want to torque down. You want to stay nice and level with the dog's body. So again, go to the dog's comfort and then a little further because you want that stretch. Is that okay? Good girl. And again, count to whatever the dog's comfortable with. Whatever you get, just kind of remember or record somewhere so you can shoot for longer the next time. If they are fighting you and literally not letting you do that, make sure you get at least one in, even for a second. Because the more they fight and the more you give up, you're not going to be able to do it again. The next time they're going to fight you harder. So don't let them win. Just go a little less on your stretch and a little less on time. And as soon as you get that stretch, have a big party and say, yay, that was really good. Especially if the dog is going through some kind of recovery or arthritic joints or whatnot. It can be a little painful until you get those muscles all stretched out. So I hope that helps, and we will see you on our next video. Have a good